All three of these are Bersa pistols, and I'm going to say this Bersa is the best concealed carry, bar none, in my opinion, okay, my opinion. But I'd say this would work for pretty much anything. One of the things you have, one of the parameters you have with a concealed carry is that it has to be small enough to carry and light enough. There are things out there that are even smaller than that, and there are things out there that are bigger too. I mean, weigh a little bit more. But the thing is, it's got eight rounds in the magazine plus one in the chamber. It's got 9 shots. It's got plenty of firepower, and also it's a 380. 380 is actually plenty adequate enough. I know some people say a 9mm is not enough. That's ridiculous. Actually, a 380 is adequate enough. These are all loaded too, by the way, so we're not going to be pulling a trigger on them or anything like that. But I want to point out something that's a little bit different with this one, is that you notice this is a 22 and this is a 380, but Bersa makes a 380 that's almost identical to this 22. And if you look at the difference, you see this? This is the concealed. There's another Bersa that looks like this. That's a 380. That's a single stack, and this grip is a little bit different on this one. It's got the two. You don't have enough room to put your pinky. In this one you do. I know it's a 22, but it's really identical to the other 380. You got to make sure you're getting the right one, because this is a little bit too big to conceal in some situations, depending on if you're wearing summer clothes or not. Because of this is out further. The safety is lower on this. The slide release is lower. The sights, they're higher. They're lower. They're more lower profile on this. You still got sights. You can still put your finger, your other hand, in front of the trigger on this one. This one's a little less length. You could put the other magazine in this one that has this for the pinky, but this being sticking out like this, that sometimes is just enough where it's not the perfect weapon to conceal. It's not in some situations. It's also, this is more narrow this way. I think it's mainly because of the grips. Yeah, it's the grips are thinner. That's what the difference is. Now this is a 380 double stack, which you could conceal that too, but it's more like a summertime concealment. Nah, not that great. This one you could very much. So, and it's got plenty of power with a 380 and plenty of capability with 8+1. And you can still grip on it really good and use two hands with your other hand on the front of here. So, and also this thing has a number of safety features. See, I personally can't stand these striker fire weapons because they're safe if you have them in a holster. If you put them in a drawer at night, or you have them laying someplace in the dark, and you go to grab them, or they're in a glove compartment or something, or some container, and you go to grab them, you can inadvertently put your finger in the trigger. And since this one, when this thing's on safe, it's completely disconnected from the firing mechanism. Where you pull that trigger back, it's totally disconnected. So, and it's very easy to, this is loaded too. I mean, but I'm not going to pull the trigger. It's very easy to take it off safe. And by the way, you notice that little red dot right here? That's a loaded chamber indicator. Another thing too I forgot to mention that's more lower profile. You notice the hammer? You can still get at the hammer and pull it back. You see this hammer? This is a 22, but again, they have a 380 that's very similar to this. You don't want to get that one unless, maybe you're living in a little colder environment or something, and you typically wear more clothes. You can still conceal this. You can conceal both these pretty easy. This one's easier to conceal than that. But this one, to me, is hands down the best, by far, concealed weapon, because you got the safety on there, which comes off immediately. It's not going to take you any more time to take the safety off. You got the first pull is a double action pull, which means it's safer because you're not going to inadvertently pull the trigger when you have a longer double action pull. You're not going to do that by accident. You know, we're having accidental discharge. You got to take it off safe. You got a longer double action pull, because with concealed carry, the likelihood that you're going to use that weapon in the next 10 years, it's more than likely you'll never will. So you want to have a lot of extra safety features in it. The loaded indicator chamber, which isn't on, this is the 22, but again, the 380s, they have another 380 single stack similar to this. There's other models that don't have that loaded chamber indicator. That's a good thing to have, that loaded chamber indicator, so you know what's going on. Some people, I'm not really a big fan of, if you take the magazine out, you can't fire the weapon. But still, that's another safety feature. That's how these all are. Now, the one thing I knew, Bersa quality is pretty good. I mean, there's some things that can go wrong with them, but very little really breaks on them. But these weapons these concealed type carry weapons are really not made for going to the range and pumping thousands of rounds through them. Like, if you're gonna, do something like that, you want to get like the Bersa TRC 9mm, the military grade weapons. They got the compact and regular size. They'll hold up a lot of rounds. These will hold up thousands of rounds typically. You could have a problem after 5,000 rounds, or there's a few cases where there's been problems with less than that, but generally speaking, these Bersas are extremely reliable. I know there's some detractors out. I know one guy, it's on the YouTube, Yankee Marshall, hates Bersas. I'm like, whatever, but I disagree all the way. But I do realize that these concealed carry type pistols are not really meant, say, wow, if you shot 50 rounds a week, in a few years, you're going to have 7,500 rounds in there through that thing, and, you could probably screw this thing up by then. You probably would. Something would break by then, probably, maybe. But with a concealed carry weapon, you really don't need to be doing that much with it. I mean, you might, if you pump through a magazine every other week, that thing will last you a million years. I mean, it'll last you a long time. And then they have a warranty. If something breaks, send it in. If you belong to the original owner, no problem. I heard of one break-in that was these type. The military grade Bersas, the ones that you could conceal carry those, but they weigh a ton. You could get the ultra compact 9mm TRC, but they weigh the 9mm like this one, and this is a 15+1. They got one that's like a 9mm TRC, 13+1, but it's a lot heavier than this. The slide is a lot heavier. Same dimensions, basically, very close. And this one is a lot lighter. It is big difference in weight and size, I mean, it really is. You're looking at the width, This is a perfect concealed carry. But like I said, I look at the safety features too. So, I mean, but if you have it, if you pump a lot of rounds through like the TRC, I think it's, I think that's what you call it, redesign. I forgot what the T is again. Redesign compact. If you pump a lot of rounds through that thing ain't gonna screw up. That thing can take thousands and thousands of rounds. Sometimes these will go loads of thousands of rounds and no problem. But with a concealed carry, you got a trade-off. They're making it lighter. But I think that's pretty much true with all of them out there. So I mean, you're not going to, if you got a little revolver, it's not going to handle that kind of stuff a lot of times. You might have a repair after a while. Now, I actually don't have extremely hot ammo in this thing. Somebody criticized me for that. I got regular ball ammo. I don't care about that Hornady critical defense. I'm hoping I never have to use this, man. Tell you the truth, man, because I would not. I carried a weapon, but I definitely do not want to ever freaking have to use it. I try to avoid confrontation at all freaking costs. But I also know that, when you're in the military, that's all you carry is ball ammo anyway. So don't tell me it don't work. Anyway, but Also, I like the fact that, you know, if I practice with this a lot, with the ball ammo, I probably could get 10,000 rounds out of it, no problem, too. I think some of the hot ammo is what really clobbers these, like the Beretta 32 Tomcat, another weapon I like. It's real small. I don't have one of those. I got a Bobcat, the one at 22. It'll crack the frame after a while, even on the new ones. But that's the case with all these little guys. You know, all these little weapons that are concealed carry. They're not made to be. You know, they're not like the old 1911 steel framed 45 ACP. They can put like 10,000 rounds through and not have a problem with it and still running great, you know, as long as you maintain it. These aren't like that. These are really made to be concealed. But again, I think this one, hands down, is by far the best. This one here. It's basically the concealed carry version, you know. It's a single stack. It's the 380cc, okay. You got to make sure it's got that one. It's a little bit less length. The grips are a little more narrow. It's got it's lower profile on the safety. It's still got the safety with the double action first pull. It's got lower profile slide release. It's got lower profile sights. The magazine doesn't hang down as much. This bump back here is less, and also the hammer is lower profile. So it makes a big difference if you're carrying it. This one's very easy to carry, and it's got, you know, 380 with 9 shots. That's plenty, man. That's plenty. You really can't complain about that. The one thing is, though, when they sell you these Bersas, they only come with one magazine. That's part of the reason why they're keeping the price down. Not all of them come with one magazine. I think sometimes you get, what do you call that one? You know, the 9 mil that they got, the one the military. I think they'll come with 2 magazines, but typically, you know, these all came with 1 magazine each, and I had to buy a magazine, a spare. I will tell you this. Do not buy an aftermarket magazine for a Bersa. Buy a Bersa magazine. You can get them cheaper than on the Bersa site. That's a fact. But make sure it's Bersa, because there's other brands out there I don't really want to mention that they might work great with some of the rifles and they might have a pretty good reputation, but they do not work right with this weapon. If you get the Bersa magazine, you're not going to have any problem. They work fine. That's another thing. And that's just like any pistol out there. They get magazine sensitive, and these aftermarket manufacturers, somehow they just don't get it right. They don't get it right at all, man. So, and the magazines for these things are pretty expensive. I think they list for like $40-50. You can get them for like 32 to 35, maybe 30. Still, it ain't cheap. It ain't cheap. And, you know, you only need 1 extra magazine with a concealed carry. I mean, if you got, so you had that, and had 8 plus 1, you had another magazine with 8 in it, you got 17 rounds. I mean, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And, you know, it's like, I think a lot of people downplay the safety factor. They're showing you, like on YouTube, like they're drawing real quick, and they got their striker fires, and striker fires, I think, are great. Well, let me say this: if I was in the military, and I was carrying this in a military situation in a holster, I would definitely want a striker fire. If I was a cop, I'd definitely want a striker fire. For concealed carry, where it's very unlikely I'd ever have to use it, and it's more likely you want to have more controls over having an accidental discharge, I want to have an external safety, and also want to have double action first trigger pull. And neither one of these have the loaded chamber indicator, which they are loaded in the chamber anyway. This one has that. This is the concealed carry version of the 380. And to me, this is hands down the best one going. And like I said, it's not something you want to put. It's not an unreliable weapon, and you know, a lot of cases you could put 5,000 rounds through them, no problem. But you're going to put that many rounds through that. But you know, you're not going to do that much. I mean, you want to practice with it. you don't, it's like, it takes a while to put that many rounds through it. You could actually have a frame crack after a while, but I think all weapons are like that are real small frame concealed carries. They're not, you're making a weapon lighter, and you're putting lighter metals in it, even though the metal's got better metallurgy and they're probably got some special alloys. There's a limit to how, it's not going to last. I mean, you could take an alloy frame revolver and it ain't going to last like was that a 4130 steel revolver? It ain't going to last the same, is it? So, I mean, it's a trade-off, man. I think it's just like that with everything. I don't think it's this brand is like, it's just that if you're getting a concealed carry weapon, you want to practice with it, but you don't want to, like, freaking practice. Well, you don't want to use 380 ammo all the time anyway, unless you reload, because that stuff's not cheap. But that's why I got this 22. This 22, I think, that thing, I think it could put a gazillion rounds through it, even using the stingers. It would never screw up. I don't think that thing that's strong enough, because you're basically got about the same frame as the 380. And the 22 Stinger ain't nowhere near, that frame isn't getting smacked anywhere near like the 380 would be, But the 380, like I said, the 380 single stack, the one that's not the exact concealed carry version, is almost identical to this 22. But like I said, I got the 22 because I wanted to use it to shoot it a lot. And, if I put 10,000 rounds through that, it ain't going to matter, this one, I want to shoot a half a box once in a while, maybe every month or so, just to make sure everything works and know how to use it and feel comfortable with it. And at that rate, say 50 rounds every 2 months times 6, that's like 300 rounds a year. Take you 10 years to do 3,000 rounds, and it'll last easily past that. So it ain't no problem, no issue there. So anyway, over that. And again, I could practice with this one a lot, which is pretty damn close to this one. So with the 22 ammo, which is a lot cheaper, right? That was the other logic behind getting the 22. But I actually noticed that I was carrying this one a lot more than that one. 'Cause that thing's a little bit too big. It's not really big, but it's great for if you got it in your glove compartment of your car, if it's legal to do that where you're at. Look, I have a concealed carry permit, so well, you could do that anyway, even without a concealed carry permit, as long as it's a closed container in a car with a lid on it. It's like it has a latch, but with a concealed carry permit, it definitely, I have no problem with that. And the other thing is, I've been in the Marine Corps for 13 years. I mean, I'm pretty familiar with freaking weapons before and after the Marine Corps and during the Marine Corps. It's like, I know, I'm careful. I know what I'm doing and stuff. So, and yeah, these are all loaded. But like I said, if you're going to grab this thing at night, and say you inadvertently start putting your finger in the trigger by mistake because it's dark out and you're grabbing it, it's an emergency situation, this thing's got a safety. It's unsafed. That's why I want that safety like that. I don't like pistols that don't have that. Like I said, if you're a cop or in the military and you're on duty, striker fire to me is a better option. But let's say, like I said, I think it's do whatever you want. Just my opinion.